Players expected a lot, especially after being left in the dark now for over a week, but it looks like today's patch to the patch is once again earning aggressively mixed results from the community. What can Arrowhead and Nixxes do from here, and what is the community saying? Well, let's find out. Plus, we've got more on tap for today as well. So stick around as we dive into all the latest with Helldivers. We might as well start at the top of what turned out to be a mixed day for Helldivers 2, as we just received a new major order along with the command from Super Earth. The Star of Peace, the Democracy Space Station's planet-collapsing defensive super weapon, requires vast quantities of dark fluid to fire. The Federation's reserves remain depleted following the weapon's inaugural operational success. Dark fluid is synthesized directly from E711, an ultra-refined organic fuel found exclusively on Terminid hive worlds. The hive world of Omicron possesses immense, untapped E711 reservoirs, hoarded by Terminids in yet another of their unprovoked and perfidious schemes. Okay, we cannot allow brainless, fascist insects to delay the march of liberty. A direct assault is the only logical course of action to secure these reserves. The Helldivers are ordered to complete 1.75 million operations on Omicron to quell Terminid resistance and clear the way for E711 extraction pipelines to enable the synthesis of dark fluid. Securing this vital resource will allow the Star of Peace to be fully armed once again, guaranteeing absolute deterrence, the continued unassailable security of the Federation, and ensuring the Star of Peace remains a highly profitable investment for Super Earth's shareholders and taxpayers. Now, the last time we saw the Star of Peace in action was way back on January 18th during the final phase of Operation Free Space, where we, the players, voted to test fire it on the bot-controlled planet of Penta. That test fire was successful as we obliterated the planet and turned it into an interstellar space dust cloud, but the blast itself was so intense that it also damaged our Death Star in the process, resulting in it needing repairs and to undergo a thorough investigation by the Ministry of Truth. There was also a massive security breach during that test firing, with either the blueprints being hacked or compromised, although we still don't know what exactly was done and what faction was behind that attack. Of course, to fire the station's main cannon, we need E711 and lots of it, which brings us to Omicron and the massive amount of factors that are currently stacked against us there. You see, first off is the ask of the MO itself. Notice it says that we need 1.75 million completed operations, which is entirely different than 1.75 million missions. Remember back when we were deep into our blitz of Cyberstan, there was that major order hacking incident where we were being asked to complete missions as our objective, but thanks to a hacker spam attack, Arrowhead paused the galactic war to then reset the major order while replacing missions with operations, and we went on to fail that portion of our attack on C-Stan. So that's point number one, just right out of the gate. If we want to complete this one over the next 5.5 days or so, we've got to complete all 3 missions to then log a successful completion of an operation. So if you're, say, logging in and heading over to Omicron, budget enough time to knock out all 3 missions to log that operation. If you're somebody that can only hit 1 mission a night, stay on Omicron and do your second mission, maybe the next day, and then the third mission to finish it up, whenever. If you do 1 mission and then say hop over to do a couple of bot missions with your buddies, your efforts versus the Terminids is for naught. So keep that in the back of your mind. The final piece of this puzzle is Omicron itself, which is not set up to make this thing any easier on us. It currently has a planetary health of 3 million and a regen rate of 3.33%, meaning the planet itself will heal for nearly 100,000 health points per hour. Players will also have to contend with the Rupture Strain and Hive Lords, along with the trifecta of terror, all baked into the Gloom Source effect. Now, the TLDR here is that with that Gloom effect overhead, total reinforcements are reduced by 20%, Eagle rearm times are increased by 30%, and finally, ammo pickups are reduced by 50%. Right now, the Helldivers companion app is predicting our victory taking 9 days to finish up the 1.75 million operations on Omicron, and as you can see, we've only got 5.5 days to go. So, yeah. Overall, it's a brutal ask between the requirement of those operations and all the modifiers stacked against the players, which may be one of the main factors contributing to the player counts still not crossing over 40,000 worldwide players across all platforms, at least at the time of this recording. During last week's transmission from the game director, Mikael Eriksson, he discussed a catalog of items that Arrowhead was apparently working on, with one of them being Galactic War campaigns, which he said was coming sometime in June. Now, these are said to last anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, and we saw this screenshot showing off how the terminals across from our armories were going to be used in some fashion to communicate what is going on during that current campaign. Now, I bring this up because as part of these campaigns, personal orders were being replaced with personal campaign progression. For some players, though, they saw the new major order post earlier today. They dropped in, they saw that with that MO, there was no personal order, and they thought, hey, we must be getting our first Galactic War campaign. But they soon found out that wasn't the case. If anything, we should expect Arrowhead to telegraph that change with some form of official announcement. At least we hope they will. As is, though, the way the current major order is playing out, it's a standard format we're used to. It's something we've seen a million times, and nothing has been altered, at least not at this point. Of course, the update we received earlier today from Helldivers HQ that the patch to the patch for the Upscaler implementation was the overall headline. And in the end, at least so far, it's landed with quite a mixed reception amongst the community. For me on PC, update 6.2.6 was only 84 megs in size, and it was pushed live to improve image quality on PC for NVIDIA DLSS, AMD FSR, and Intel XeSS upscaling. Xbox and PS5 also received apparently better upscaling image quality for FSR, while PS5 Pro received much the same with its own version of improved image quality for PSSR. There was also a statement that DRS, or dynamic resolution scaling, was now going to be turned off by default due to player reports that it was causing some weird and wonky issues with graphics. Xbox Series S received an out-of-memory crash, as well as XeSS, which had a crash associated with it as well. Arrowhead went on to say that they are tracking feedback around the upscaling quality and performance, while both they and Nixxes were working on further optimizations and improvements. First off, and this one completely slipped my mind, but how many of you are actually playing HD2 on Xbox Series S? And while we're on that question, how does the game perform specifically on that console? Because I had totally forgotten that when Team Green was brought into the fold, there were 2 versions of Xbox that were activated. Definitely drop me a comment and let us all know if you were on Series S and overall how the game is performing for you ever since these Upscaler patches were pushed live. All of that out of the way, we did a bunch of testing this morning with all the new settings, and besides the point that, at least for us, we weren't seeing any improvements, the entire implementation is confusing to many players. You see, first off, when players hear DLSS, they instantly start thinking about better FPS, as in frame gen and all the rest of it, and this Upscaler implementation doesn't perform like that. Frame gen is not enabled, which I know for many PC players is something they don't like, but it was important to mention. There's also an Upscaler setting for you to run the game at native settings, which is exactly the point that you wouldn't be using an Upscaler because you would already be at native resolution, and you get the point. In fact, today yielded the same results I talked about last week, or maybe it was a little over a week ago in this video when we first got the Nixxes developed Upscaler patch. The only difference with today's patch is that the Upscaler seems to be working now on our environments along with the diver character model, whereas last patch, our divers looked okay, but the environments, for example, like on our ships, were badly out of focus, often looking like they were from an 8-bit game, even jumping over into the disco realm with crazy bright lights and the rest of it. The only times we saw any sort of improvements, again, this is on PC, was when the Upscalers were used on an RTX 2070 Super GPU, which is 7 years old. Past something like that GPU, you could use the Upscalers, but the expected performance gains just weren't there. We tested it on DLSS Ultra Performance all the way up to native, DLSS on, DLSS off, FSR on, which at least on my setup looked even worse than DLSS. And, we tried all the other settings as well. Nothing ended up looking as good or performed as well as when I ran the game in DX11 at native resolution with TAA disabled. Again, I went into this subject in a lot more detail in this video, and I'll leave a link to it down in the video description and pinned comment, but if you activate something like the Steam Performance Overlay or MSI Afterburner, you're going to see the issues. With lower to medium up to top shelf PC rigs, the issue with Helldivers isn't that your GPU is capped out. In fact, you'll probably see that you have plenty of headroom, and that's because the real issue holding back the game's performance is that it is CPU bottlenecked. And that comes down to the game engine and the internals of the game itself, which we all know an Upscaler just won't be able to push the needle in terms of better performance. However, I did want to also mention that overall the community is returning again with mixed results for today's patch. Some are posting to Reddit that the Upscalers still don't work, while others are saying that DLSS and other rendering updates have made the game clearer for them. For a lot of players, they saw the Upscaler announcements and immediately thought that the game was going to take a dramatic step forward in terms of performance, and it just hasn't been the case. But either way, it looks like Arrowhead and Nixxes have a lot more work that is needed to get the Upscalers fully functional and operating for more players in the way that they're expecting them to. And finally, it looks like Jason Helldiver is making an exit stage left, as all the news publications are now reporting that Jason Momoa, who had joined the movie cast as of February of this year, has now left the Helldivers 2 project. It appears that Justin Lin is still directing it, but at this point IGN is stating that the movie has lost its star, which is something I don't think we've heard in the past. I mean, we knew that Momoa was part of this project, but it was unclear if he was going to be leading the cast or more in a supporting role. But of course, many Helldivers have already been chiming in on these news sites saying that we already have the Helldivers movie, it's called Starship Troopers, or that we already have the perfect lead actor for the role, Craig Lee Thomas, aka John Helldiver. But yeah, definitely drop me a comment about the new major order, when you think the new Galactic War campaigns in the ship terminal will be activated, how the second round of Upscaler patches are treating you, and really anything Helldivers in general. Also, if you're looking for something a little different here on the channel, I uploaded a reaction video to the channel earlier today while on camera, and also jumping in with my unfiltered and unscripted thoughts while I watched another Helldivers content creator's video. Check in the video description and pinned comment for a link to that one. And based on the feedback I see for that upload, we may have to work those into the upload rotation. I don't know. We'll see. If you haven't done so already, please support the channel by hitting subscribe and ringing the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. You can also swipe to hype the video while on mobile. And a massive and heartfelt thanks needs to go out to all of our outstanding channel members. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.